Hello and welcome to Resilient Cybersecurity with Network Detection and Response. Today's webinar is sponsored by Progress Software and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping items that will help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in our webinar control panel. Not only will we have team members responding to questions during the live event, but we'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the presentation where we'll discuss in greater detail some of the top questions that you ask. The Q&A panel is also the place to let us know if you run into any technical issues. Browser refresh is going to fix most audio, video, or slide advancement issues, but if that doesn't work, just let us know there in the Q&A and we'll provide further technical assistance. Now, second, in the handout section of your webinar control panel, you'll find that we're offering several resources. I'd especially like to call your attention to three great resources from Progress. There's a PDF of a Flowmon solution overview, a link to a Flowmon demo, and a link to a Flowmon trial. You can also find some great Actual Tech Media resources in there, including a link to our calendar of upcoming events and the Gorilla Guide Book Club of informative printed resources and technology guides. So I encourage you to access those resources now and share them with your friends and colleagues. Third, at the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant. Now, you must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Just scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. Now, finally, one of the best benefits of an event like this is the opportunity to ask a question of our expert presenter. So to help encourage your questions, we have a special additional prize for you. That's another Amazon gift card. This one's for $50 for the best question. Once the event is over, we'll look at all the questions that came in, pick out the very best one, and contact that prize winner. And with that, let's get to today's great presentation. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenter today, Frank Cotto, Principal Sales Engineer at Progress Software. Frank, it's great to have you here. Take it away.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you all for joining us. As Scott has mentioned, my name is Frank Cotto, and I'm a Principal Sales Engineer with Progress Software. I am truly excited to dig in today with you and discuss resilient cybersecurity with network detection and response as delivered by Progress Flowmon. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. It is no secret that cyber attacks are on the rise. In fact, it is safe to assume a decline in cyber attack frequency will not be in next year's reports. Now, with that said, I do believe that the cost associated with the success of an attack can certainly be diminished by an organization's security posture and approach towards cybersecurity resilience. So for the 12th year in a row, the US has taken gold in the highest cost on average of a data breach. That said, the rest of the globe is not by any means free from significant cost impact. In fact, the total in the middle of this slide is much more concerning, as it states by 2025, cybercrimes are estimated to cost the world $10.5 trillion annually. And then lastly and sadly, it seems that there is nothing that drives cybercrime activity like a pandemic, with an increase of 81% since its onset. Detection and response are more important than blocking and prevention. Strategy-defining words from Neil McDonald of Gartner. Now, this statement highlights the importance of answering the question, who is watching the network? If perimeter security solutions like firewalls are the fence around your house, and endpoint security solutions like antivirus and anti-malware are the motion sensors within your home, then network detection and response solutions are the cameras and spotlights that surround your home. All three solution sets are extremely important to the overall goal of protecting business-critical data, but many security architectures leave out solutions that leverage the network's single source of truth for all communications to detect and respond to anomalous threats. Network detection and response, or NDR solutions, primarily use non-signature-based techniques, for example, machine learning or other analytical techniques, to detect suspicious traffic on the enterprise networks. NDR tools continuously analyze raw traffic and or flow records to build models that reflect normal network behavior. When the NDR tool detects suspicious traffic patterns, they raise alerts. In addition to monitoring north and south traffic that crosses the enterprise perimeter, NDR solutions can also monitor east to west communications by analyzing traffic from strategically placed network sensors. Gartner's SOC visibility triad promotes the concept of leveraging complementary security tools that make up for one another's shortcomings to significantly reduce the chances that an attacker will be able to achieve their goals. Now, the three pillars of the triad are, as you can see here on the screen, endpoint detection and response for identifying and thwarting threats at the endpoint, security information and event management, or SIEM, for processing logs and correlating events, and network detection and response for conducting behavioral analysis and anomaly detection from the perspective of the network. Adopting Gartner's SOC visibility triad approach translates to developing a security model that extends log management and endpoint protection with network detection and response tools. See, network detection and response solutions extend the lens of SIEM and EDR solutions out into the network, providing a full environment coverage for SecOps teams. The overall theme that I'm highlighting here is that various security solutions leveraged in environments today are better together, and especially when they are coupled with an NDR solution or network detection and response solution to ensure that organizations' security architecture includes full coverage visibility. Now, with no further ado, let's dive into a high-level overview of our Flowmon solution. Flowmon is a one-stop shop for network monitoring, performance and diagnostics, network detection and response, and application performance monitoring. From intelligent network observability to AI-driven anomaly detection and response and insights on app and database performance, Flowmon has got you completely covered. Why build all of these solution sets into one product? Well, because we believe NetOps, SecOps, and app teams would greatly benefit from operational synergy. The Flowmon solution creates a secure and transparent digital environment where people rule the network, regardless of its complexity and nature. Using machine learning, heuristics, and advanced analytics, it enables IT professionals to improve performance and reduce risk across an enterprise's data centers and cloud environments. The solution serves as a shared platform where network and security teams speak the same language, enabling them to work as one for faster mean time to resolution and optimal resource allocation. By delivering highly streamlined deployment to any network type, market-leading support, and in-product guidance, the solution provides the fastest time to value in the industry. In a world where technology exists for the benefit of people, secure and healthy digital environments are essential. That's why Flowmon Networks develops an actionable network intelligence solution that enables businesses to ensure their services are running well and securely, and their workforce is productive. Now, let's talk about the Flowmon architecture, and this will help you understand how Flowmon is deployed and how it works. Flowmon, as given away in its name, is completely flow-based. So flow, or more commonly known NetFlow, is metadata of raw package traversing a network. Choosing flow as the basis of our platform gives us an edge when it comes to scalability, performance, and cost efficiency. Flowmon can be deployed virtually, as hardware, and in the cloud. So starting at the top, here are the many ways that Flowmon can receive flows. However, to tap into the full capabilities of the Flowmon architecture, we recommend deploying our Flowmon Probe. Our Flowmon Probe is the most powerful flow generator on the market today, and it is responsible for ingesting raw packets, conducting deep packet inspection on various layer 2, 3, 4, and 7 protocols, extracting key information and injecting it into IPFix format flow fields. Furthermore, our probe calculates network performance metrics, providing insights into network round trip time, server response time, delay, jitter, and retransmissions. All flows are then stored on our Flowmon collector, which is at the center of your screen. This is where customers have access to dashboards and reports and the advanced functionality you can see listed across the bottom of this slide. Flowmon Monitoring Center provides network visibility and troubleshooting. Flowmon Anomaly Detection System, which we will be focusing on today, provides network-centric detection and response. Flowmon Packet Investigator provides full packet capture and analysis in an automated fashion. And Flowmon Application Performance Monitor provides database-centric and web service-centric application performance monitoring. As I mentioned, this presentation is focused on the abilities of Flowmon Anomaly Detection System. The Flowmon ADS provides real-time anomaly detection, uncovering the movements of threat actors within your network, forensic level evidence powering rapid analysis of threat actor exploits, and avoidance of alert storms and actionable insights via our machine learning powered engine. These key capabilities contribute to the ability for an organization to stop and respond to attacks quickly and early as possible. See, IBM's cost of data breach report highlighted that it took an average of 277 days to identify and contain a breach in 2022. That's 9 months. More interestingly than that, though, the average savings associated with containing a breach to 200 days was $1.12 million. I mean, this is a key metric to consider when building an organization's security architecture. I mean, real-time detection and response saves substantially more than it costs an organization to implement. And this statement proves that. So how does it work? Flowmon's detection and response intelligence is comprised of an AI approach to detecting threat actors inside of your environment. We combine machine learning, adaptive baselining, heuristics, behavioral patterns, threat intelligence, as well as reputational databases in an array of different algorithms and detection methods in order to detect the earliest possible evidence of a threat actor inside of your environment. Those threats or those events are then notified to your SecOps team, where they can do their threat detection, threat hunting, incident response, forensics right on the platform. Furthermore, your NetOps team gains insights into this information and is also provided by the ability of Flowmon to store historical data for forensic analysis, for long-term data collection and archiving, visualization, and interpretation. Further, providing the value of having both solution sets contributed to in the same product. In addition, we've built in the MITRE ATT&CK framework, organizing all of our triggered events into different stages of an attack. The MITRE ATT&CK framework provides a blueprint of how threat actors will use tactic, techniques, and procedures to carry out an attack. Organizing our methods and sub-methods by the MITRE ATT&CK framework enables our users to mount an offense and break the attack chain of the threat actors within their environment. I mean, ideally speaking here, if you're able to detect a threat actor in the environment within the reconnaissance or the weaponization phase or the discovery phase, then you're able to quickly thwart those attacks and prevent any further damage. So in review, Flowmon's network detection and response solution provides internal security and protection against the likes of viruses, malware, and ransomware, detection of a threat actor's presence at every phase of an attack, the ability to highlight operational problems and anomalies in network traffic as a result of misconfigured applications or protocol misuse, and can even identify the presence of an outdated security policy or unwanted communications on the network like P2P networks and instant messaging. Flowmon also provides the ability to notify SecOps teams of triggered events, integrate with SIEM solutions by populating them with syslog events, and triggering custom executable actions, which enable our integration with solutions like Checkpoint, Fortinet, IBM QRadar, Log Manager, and much more. Now, since we have the overview of Flowmon pretty much wrapped up and you have a high-level understanding of how it's architected and the value that it brings to the customer, let's actually dig into a demo of how Flowmon Anomaly Detection System responds, or rather detects, a ransomware attack in the making. This demo was actually generated from a real-world scenario where an employee on a business trip connected to a cafe's Wi-Fi, which so happened to be riddled with malware. The malware was able to circumvent the anti-malware on the employee's device and make it onto the laptop. When the employee returned to the office, they connected their laptop to the company's network, and the malware running on the background began its procedures. After the connection to the network, it scans the whole network using various methods. It discovers two devices, a client machine with RDP running on it and a server with Samba running on it. After discovering these services, the malware performs a technique called password spraying. It tries notoriously known password and username combinations. The malware then tries to scan the target with RDP running on it to determine if it's vulnerable to the known exploit called Bluekey. It is, so the malware exploits this vulnerability and gains system administrator privileges. The malware then runs a keylogger on the victim machine and takes screenshots. As a result, the attacker is able to discover credentials to the target Samba network drive. The malware then downloads a file from the Samba drive. The malware then exfiltrates this file using ICMP protocol ping to exfiltrate the data from the victim to its command and control server. After the file is exfiltrated, the malware encrypts the files on the Samba drive, and the ransomware negotiations begin. So here's a quick high-level overview of the attack environment. The compromised device is 192.168.1.50. The Samba server is 1.2, and the RDP server is 1.3. And of course, the objectives here is that the attacker wants to exfiltrate sensitive customer data and encrypt the data and ask for a ransom. The first thing that an attacker needs to do when gaining access to a network is to discover endpoints or network device vulnerabilities that it can exploit. In this attack, the threat actor leverages an ARP scan followed by a TCP scan in order to identify the endpoints that it will target. Flowmon detects the compromised device executing ARP scans on the network. Here you can see the event outlined, where we dictate the type and subtype of the event, breaking down in detail that this is a reporting of a scanning of the live devices on the network using the ARP protocol. Furthermore, we give you the high-level detail of success, right? ARP scans with response 3, ARP scans without response 252, as well as the event source and MAC address, and all of the scans targets here at the bottom of the page. The vertical TCP scan is also acknowledged or discovered by Flowmon, and here you can see that the attacker is scanning via TCP the 3 endpoints that it has discovered. The next stage in this attack is credential access. The attacker needs to gain access to the Samba server, but via by the network or by another vulnerable device in order to access its data. The attacker does this via a brute force attack on the Samba server itself. Here you can see the brute force attack being detected on the network by Flowmon and outlined with much detail around the nature of that attack. Samba dictionary attack outlines 2,003 attempts on ports 139 and 445, and the attack duration here took 29 seconds. I highlighted the attributes of the actual event here to give you an idea of how much information Flowmon actually gives you based on an attack going on in the environment. The next step, of course, is lateral movement. The attacker exploited RDP protocol Bluekeep vulnerability to gain access to the RDP server. Here you see Flowmon has detected the RDP dictionary attack from the compromised device to the RDP server. Furthermore, we have the ability to ingest IDS events from a Cotto device inside of a customer's environment, as well as we can run Cotto on our Flowmon probes to generate those events on board. That said, we will allocate those events to the events detected by Flowmon Anomaly Detection System for further forensics and analysis of the behavior of the threat actor. Once the attacker gained access to the SMB server via the RDP server, they were able to exfiltrate sensitive data from the SMB server directly to the compromised device. Here you see the high data transfer detected between the compromised device and the SMB server. The attacker then decides to split the data into smaller chunks and exfiltrate it from the network to its known command and control center via ICMP. This is detected, of course, by Flowmon via multiple events, and it's important to call out that a single transaction or communication by a threat actor on the network can indeed trigger multiple events to occur on Flowmon. Now here you see, for example, the blacklist event. Because we have reputational databases built into the product set, we can detect when any communications with a known command and control center or blacklisted IP occur on the network. Here we call out the known command and control center, and the event evidence is outlined at the bottom of the screen. Every flow associated to the triggering of an event will be attached to every event within the event evidence. This provides for rapid forensic analysis, as well as a hook into Flowmon Monitoring Center if you so wish to conduct threat hunting. In addition, the attacker using ICMP with large payload is also identified by Flowmon in the large payload subtype. Having the NetOps capabilities and SecOps capabilities on one platform enables us to use the advanced functionality of the collector in conjunction with one another. So here we configured Flowmon Anomaly Detection System to say if you ever see ICMP anomaly large payload, trigger a packet capture. So now you can see with traffic record section of the actual anomaly, we have the packet captures available to us associated to the traffic that was being exfiltrated from the environment. And why is this important? Because when conducting forensic analysis, the actual SecOps engineer can also now look at the packet captures and identify what file names and contents were exfiltrated from the environment. Lastly, the data is encrypted by the attacker on the network share, and destructive actions begin. Flowmon is able to detect, via our behavioral patterns method, the nature of SMB traffic being encrypted on the network, and will call it out with all of the details that we've seen in previous events. Sadly, of course, this story ends in a full ransomware attack being successful, and the only next thing that we expect is an email or communication from the attacker demanding a ransom. This is easily preventable with the right NDR solution deployed and configured to alert SecOps teams at the earliest traces of a ransomware attack. Furthermore, integrating Flowmon with your perimeter and or endpoint protection solutions can be the difference between being alerted of the presence of a threat actor in your environment and being alerted that the threat actor has been dealt with. If you'd like to have a discussion around how your organization can benefit from leveraging Flowmon, we would love to hear from you. Scan the QR code on the screen and you will be directed to our Contact Us form. Fill it out and we will reach out to coordinate a call. We would be happy to provide you with a live demo of Flowmon and to support you through a POC. Thanks again for joining me through this presentation, and we will now kick off our Q&A.
All right, great stuff, Frank. Thanks. And so we've got a lot of questions coming in here.
Awesome.
Fact, yeah, I'm gonna turn over the Q&A to one of our audience members, Adam, who's got a bunch of questions. Maybe we'll start with some of those.
Oh yeah, all right. I can see that. Awesome.
First one here. How can you ensure the resiliency of your network detection and response system against emerging cyber threats such as zero-day attacks and APTs?
Okay, so phenomenal question, right? Probably one on the top of everybody's mind. So the resiliency is truly assured or ensured by the AI-based signatureless approach to detection, right? So as opposed to signature-based detection, where the known nature of an attack or the known patterns of an attack need to be understood before we can detect that attack in an environment, Flowmon is signatureless, right? So we're using the AI-based intelligence around behavioral patterns, machine learning, adaptive baselining, in order to detect the threat actor's movements as anomalous in nature, right? This really rids the need or the overhead of having to truly understand what an attack is, or what it has been, in order to detect something that's anomalous, right? So this enables us to detect those threats in the earliest of days, right? So your zero-day attacks, as soon as an attacker enters the environment and begins its discovery phase.
Gotcha. Another one here from Adam. What are the best practices for designing a resilient network architecture that can withstand cyber attacks and facilitate effective network detection and response?
All right, so we see this trend, right? Observability, right, is such a high point of focus nowadays for network architects, right? And likewise, we see and would recommend that architectures are developed based on observability. What does that mean, right? So built-in segments of a network that are allocated to monitoring an environment, like packet broker networks or packet broker switches, or switches really segregated out for mirroring communications, is key. And this is really so that when you adopt a solution for network monitoring and detection and response, the ingest of the data is readily available to you, right? And you want to do this at the most aggregated points in the environment, of course, right? Or closest even to the actual resources in the environment that are a focus, right? So your core switching, or even layers very close to your backend application servers, like the virtual infrastructure, for example. The other portion to that I would say is important is, you heard me talk just a few minutes ago about the relationship between perimeter security devices, network detection and response solutions, and endpoint detection and response solutions. Now, these are all critical points, right? And critical devices to have in the environment, even more so when they're working together, right? So ensuring that you have the full layered security approach deployed is just as essential in ensuring that resilient network architecture is upstanding.
Okay, excellent. Another one here, how can you accurately identify and classify different types of network traffic, including legitimate traffic, in separating that out from anomalous traffic and malicious traffic?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's going to come down to the intelligence in your behavioral patterns, right? The methods in which are defined to look at, standard protocol or application traffic as being standard, right? A lot of that even
Yes.
comes from adaptive baselining, right? Baselining the environment to ensure that in a normal state of work, things work, function, and communicate in a certain way, and anything outside of that spectrum is indeed anomalous. I mean, with that said, right, we use the matter attack framework built into the product very heavily. And what that is a framework that helps us to understand the different stages in an attack of a threat actor, right? And correlating network traffic to those stages is one of the methods we use in which to identify or take, differentiate threat actor traffic from the traffic of normal clients inside the environment.
Gotcha. Okay. And there's another one here. How can you effectively manage and respond to large-scale network security incidents, such as data breaches or ransomware attacks, using network detection and response tools and techniques? And I guess I would add to that, as far as Flowmon goes, is there a response element, or is it really just telling you what's happening and then you use other things to respond?
That's a great, but man, these questions are phenomenal. I just want to stop and say that for a moment. Okay, so the approach that you want to take surely does depend on the response aspect of things, right? So the question says, how do we use network detection and response utilities to effectively manage and respond, right? The network is oftentimes a single source of truth, right? When something circumvents your perimeter security, your endpoint security, they live on your network. And so the network is the point in which you truly want to be looking with a very, very powerful magnifying glass. That said, the intelligence to be able to detect these threats is only in many ways half the battle, right? The response is certainly the other half. And response can be seen in a multitude of ways, right? It can be seen as populating, for example, a SIEM solution or a SOC dashboard where that you're getting the information to your SecOps engineers, as a multitude of products are, right? So we have very granular abilities, very powerful abilities to respond in efforts to avoid things like alert storms and give you the actual information that you need to have, right? Furthermore, we have custom actions built into the product, which essentially means that we have the ability to deploy executables based on the detection of a specific attack inside of the network. So we can tell, for example, your perimeter security devices to update its dynamic list of blacklisted IPs, right? Or to isolate a specific host that we believe is a threat actor in the network. And we could also communicate with endpoint detection and response solutions, right? Like, for example, we have integrations built with a partner of ours, Superna, which is protecting backend data. We can tell that that solution to begin to protect and respond to a threat actor that it hasn't any notice of, right? So the threat actor is communicating out on the network. It hasn't reached the endpoint yet, but now the endpoint with Flowmon has the intelligence or the lens into what's happening on the network, right? So that's an example as well. I mean, it gets so granular to be. I mean, even SDN devices in the environment, whether we can shut down ports or segregate certain network segments, but that is all built into the actual product, right? We didn't go too heavy into the response nature of the product today as far as the demo goes, because it's so generic in nature, right? We can be communicating with a perimeter firewall, an endpoint, a SIEM solution, but it absolutely is built into the product.
Gotcha. Okay, great. I'm going to ask one more question from the Adam portion of our Q&A here. Adam,
Okay.
thank you so much for submitting all these questions. He's saying, how can you ensure the reliability and accuracy of your network detection and response data, and what steps can you take to reduce the risk of false positives and false negatives? And so for example, if somebody's putting new applications on the network, how does Flowmon differentiate between those and that may have activity that's way different from the baseline, but is legitimate?
I'm glad you chose that question as the last from Adam. Yeah, I wish we could cover all of them because they are truly phenomenal. But with that said, really what it comes down to, right, is every security solution that is doing intelligent AI-based detection inside of an environment, or even signature list detection inside of an environment, is going to come with its false positive tuning, right? Now, with that said, we recognize that as a pain point for our customers, and we're targeting that pain point. We do it initially with the a configuration wizard that asks you, it'll poll you for a few just questions about your environment, server segments, network segment details, usage of public IPs internally, things of that sort, SMTP, DNS server information. And then it'll actually use AI to apply that and tune the methods already built on the device so that you can kind of hit the ground running with a sense of accuracy, right? Furthermore than that, we build in filters, false positives, and method tuning in and of itself so that you can, of course, easily tune the device to mitigate against false positives. But taking the narrative even further, right? We're building into our solution things that are in beta, or I can say it this way. We're thinking about and coming up with solutions that enable the actual device to think for itself and communicate with you. So rather than you approaching what has been detected on the appliance and applying false positive tuning, we will let you know, hey, based on the way that we see these things are detected, we think this is likely a false positive analysis. Would you like us to apply the rules that will mitigate against this? And it's a simple click, right? But today, right, false positive tuning is very, very still necessary and very required in reliability and accuracy, right?
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, Adam, thanks again for all those questions. We have a question here from Vinod, who's wondering what are some of the source systems that you can integrate with?
Source. Oh, okay. So because we're flow based, right, and this really kind of contributes to the scalability and resiliency of the solution set, right? We are completely flow based. Now, we recommend that our customers use our Flow-on Probe, which is, like I mentioned previously, is the most powerful flow generator on the market today, in order to get that enriched detail, right, and one-for-one unaggregated data. However, because we're flow based, right, we can actually ingest flow from any network device that supports the offload of flow, and we support every flow format, right? So with that said, whether it's your S-Flow, J-Flow, NetFlow V5, V9, IPFix, we can ingest it all. And why this helps with scalability, right, is you may deploy, for example, Flowmon to manage a certain segment day one. Maybe there's budgetary requirements, maybe there's a focus on a specific network segment or application. And that doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice day one visibility into the rest of the network. I mean, you already have the network peripherals there, or the network devices that can offload flow. So we say to our customers, hey, listen, you may not be putting Flowmon probes in every segment of your network to get that granular details. However, let's not sacrifice that for nothing. Let's have those network peripherals all over your environment, send flows to Flowmon so that we can give you some visibility into those endpoints, right? So the more direct answer to the question is if the source device can offload flow in any format, then we can integrate with it. And that list is massive, right?
Gotcha. We have an interesting question here from Justino, who's asking, can Flowmon protect against zero-day cyber attacks? And you addressed that, during the presentation as well. But what I'd like to add to that question is, what do you guys see as far as sort of percentages? When zero-day attacks become known, like what percentage are you guys able to generally flag? Because I imagine some of them are better at concealing their activity than others.
Well, so that's actually super interesting, right? I don't have an exact percentage, right? But and I'll make the potentially skewed comment of saying utmost accuracy. But the point is this, right? When you have a solution tuned and deployed in your network correctly for Flowmon, and we are tuned correctly, then the detection it's almost 100%. Why? Because though an attacker may, for example, carry out its exploits rapidly, right, which of course we would detect, or they carried out their exploits over a span of time, their exploits will always appear as anomalous to normal traffic and behavior. Right now, we're seeing threat actors become more and more intelligent with this approach, right? But at some point, for example, in a ransomware attack, the data has to traverse the environment, right? And it's largely going to do that in a chunk of data that is going to be, anomalous or vulnerable, or make the company vulnerable, right? It also has to move outside the environment to its known command and control centers, right? The IPs that may or may not be blacklisted, nevertheless, uploading of data, from a device that may not be expected to do so. So we are extremely accurate in detecting zero-day cyber attacks because we are behavior based, and I know that's a comment that I've made continuously, but if you just think of the real nature of that comment, in that we can see when a threat actor decides to move, may it move fast or move over the course of months, we are going to be able to call it out, right? Even more so, right? A customer can deploy our solution post-attack, right? And be able to see and get a handle of how those threat actors are moving inside of the network, even post the attack, right? And then all that data is stored, right, for forensic analysis, for review, and it's constantly looked at. I mean, as we would imagine and hope by our SecOps engineers.
Okay. All right, great. There's a question from Don here about, will this software's AI stomp out a threat by itself? And I guess, and I would add to that, in terms of the automation, what are sort of the defaults and what can you set as far as like how aggressive it is in tamping down anomalous behavior?
Yeah, so we really give you the utmost freedom, right, to be as graceful or graceless with response as you'd like to be. And I say it that way because we get requirements from a multitude of customers. Some customers simply do not want Flowmon, stomping out the attack. They want Flowmon notifying the SecOps engineers of the devices in the environment that will stomp out the attack, right? Yeah. However, we also have customers that'll have the executable be a script on the device that will go right ahead and stomp out the attack, right? Yeah. An example of that is, blocking a user, quarantining a user on a firewall, right? That is an instant response and thorough response, of course. And so the real answer is, will the software stomp out the attack by itself? Absolutely. Does the majority of customers implement it that way? Well, not necessarily, but you surely can, right? So the response really is in your hands, right?
Yeah, gotcha. Awesome. Frank, we've burned through a lot of questions here, and I know you've been sort of monitoring the questions too. So just before we kind of wrap up, I just wanted to check with you if there are any that we didn't get to that you really hope that we would address here. You really wanted to hit.
Yeah. Let me take a peek here.
And I'll add that while you're going through those, we will we'll get all these questions to you afterward. Everybody says a question. Frank will see all your questions and be able to respond later as well if we don't get to it today.
Okay. Wow, you guys are really populating the questions. This is phenomenal. And this is probably, let me just say, I'm going to throw this out there. These are probably the best questions I've gotten in a webinar thus far. So I really appreciate that. Yeah. Let's just take the last one. I have one of these listed here. So another Adam question. Thank you again, Adam. So how can you continuously improve resiliency and effectiveness of your network detection and response program? And what metrics you should use to measure success? And I choose that question because it's probably the most unpopular, right? Okay. Measurement of success really comes down to the protection of the environment, right? And the state of the environment. If your environment has not been intruded upon, right, and your data is safe, then surely a measurement of success. However, we've also built into the appliance the ability to baseline based on methods, right? The percentage of change and quantity over time. So for example, we'll take, a blacklist IP method, right? We're going to tell you over the last 24 hours, month, 2 weeks, whatever you set, what the percentage of change is, right? And so what this is going to tell you is two things. One, first off, that your machine is either well tuned or terribly tuned, right? Because of the increasing amount. But the more accurate thing it's going to tell you once the device is tuned is, what the actual threat actor movement looks like in your environment. And keep in mind, guys, right, this is an anomaly detection system. And many a times, we're positioning this for SecOps, well, obviously speaking, right? But from a NetOps perspective, and this is the key point, that can be as a result of a misconfigured application, right? Misconfigured protocol, servers in the environment that were doing an action that we thought had not been doing those actions anymore. I mean, we see that all the time, right? So oftentimes you deploy the solution and you learn more about your environment than you ever knew before. But these anomalies are going to be called out over a span of time, and you're going to ultimately get a better hold on the network. And that's how you should measure your success, right? the frequency in which these events are being populated, for which we would provide you in percentages of change and incremental numbers, as well as how well tuned your environment is. I mean, Flowmon in and of itself is not only network detection and response, it's network monitoring, performance, and diagnostics, it's application performance monitoring in one solution set. And that's a great compete point, right? Typically, when you have an NDR solution, it's NDR and that's it. But Flowmon, with our NDR capabilities, will give you the ability to historically look back, right? Baseline your environment, conduct your forensic analysis, and gather all of your evidence, whether it's 30 days, 60 days down the line, previous, right? Because we're highly resilient and flow-based. But it also gives you the ability to track down and threat hunt certain aspects of the environment, right? We see an anomalous behavior in this network traffic. Well, let's figure out how long this has been going on and what device in the environment does it affect, right? All of that is at your fingertips with the solution. So it's truly a operational synergy, NetOps and SecOps solution based. And so that's why I chose that question.
Very cool. Yeah, thanks for grabbing that question out. Yeah, and so Frank, I think we're going to have to leave it there. This has been a fantastic discussion, but maybe just one last reminder for people about if they do want to get started with Flowmon or find out more. What do you recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So I threw this QR code here on the screen. Go ahead and scan that. That takes you right to our contact us form. You fill that out. We'll reach out to you directly. You have my information, which means you can find me on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out and connect, ask any questions that maybe we didn't cover today. I'm happy to have those conversations. I truly do love this space. So that's how you can reach out to us as a company. We'll get you a POC demo, get you some licenses so you can slap them in your environment and see what it does for itself, right? So really, really appreciate everybody attending today.
Great. Well, Frank, this has been a great presentation. And I meant to say I really appreciate the demo, the way you set that up. As far as what the scenario was before you started showing code on the screen,
Sure.
it was really helpful. And you could really see what was happening and what you were following and all that. So that really nice. Hey, thanks for all your time today and for taking all of these questions. It was a real lightning round of a lot of questions, a lot of great questions, and thanks to the audience for bringing all this here. But appreciate you coming on and giving us the update on progress.
All right. Thank you for having me, everybody. Hope it was fruitful.
Excellent. Okay. Well, while I do the prize drawing, I will leave that QR code just up there for another 15 or 20 seconds. So if you didn't get a chance to get your phone out and grab that and you wanted to grab it, you've got one last opportunity here to do that. So I'm going to announce the winner of the $250 Amazon gift card, and that is just the sort of the door prize version. The best question goes. We picked that out afterward, but geez, there's a lot of candidates. So the winner of the $250 Amazon gift card is Michael Nackey from Iowa. So congratulations to Michael. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Progress Software for making this event possible. And thanks again for attending and for all of your great questions today. This has really been a fantastic session. That concludes this event. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.